Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So it is the weekend, it's a long weekend which I am so happy about, and I'm going to use the opportunity to do as much reading as possible. Now you might already know if you watched my previous videos, but I've said that I'm going to try and read the whole long list for the Women's Prize for Fiction. So I'm currently, I think, on my 6th book, so we're getting there. There's 16 books in total, and I've seen some people post some videos already of like their favourites in the long list, and I'm thinking, how have you read these books so quickly? But yeah, I'm on number 6 and there have been some absolutely amazing books and then a couple that I'm not so keen on. So I'll quickly run through the books that I've read so far in the list. So that is Glory by No Violet Bulawayo. This book was absolutely incredible. Before reading it, I heard some bad reviews about it, but I was honestly blown away by this book. I thought it was so amazing. By the way, I'm going to do a big video once I've read the full long list of talking through my favourites, doing like in-depth reviews of them. So I'll just quickly go through them with you now. I won't go too in detail. And then the first one that I read on the long list was Pod by Laline Paul. This was a more unusual book for me, and at first I wasn't keen on it too much, but then towards the end I actually really grew to love it and really loved the character development in this book. So the next book I read was Trespasses by Louise Kennedy, and I surprisingly really loved this book. I'm not sure why, but the cover didn't appeal to me, but it is centred around the Troubles in Ireland. I think this is set in Belfast, and it's centred around a girl named Kushla. She's a young girl, a young teacher, and she ends up having an affair with an older man, and it's about how her and everyone in her life navigates living throughout the Troubles. And it was so insightful, and it really gave a human element to the Troubles and just showed how violent and so heartbreaking they were. There was such a big plot twist. I remember I was reading this book just before I was going out, and the plot twist hit, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to leave. I want to carry on and read this book. I want to know what happens. It was so good. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book, really enjoyed reading it. Would definitely read more from Louise Kennedy because I really enjoyed her writing. And then I read Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes. Love this book. I just love reading Greek mythology. This book was about Medusa, but had so many other gods in there as well. I just love these sorts of books so much. This was definitely a win for me. Loved it. And then another book that I have read on the long list, by the way, this is in no particular order, they're just scattered everywhere at the minute. So the next one I read was I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel, and this was most definitely my least favourite book. I was just not a fan of it at all. This style of book just isn't for me. It's about a woman who is having an affair with this rich, successful, married man, a man who has multiple affairs, and she has become obsessed with one of the other women because this woman is like an influencer, really rich, and she's become obsessed with her and her life and following her online. But this book just honestly didn't hit for me. Like, I'm just not a fan of that like unhinged woman sort of theme. Yeah, didn't work for me, didn't enjoy it really, I have to say. And then I just finished this book yesterday. I literally read it in one day because I thought it was so amazing. And that is Wandering Souls by Cecile Pinn. And this is actually a friend of a friend who wrote this book, which I just think is so cool. So I really wanted to like it, and I was so happy that I actually loved it so much. It was just so heartbreaking, and it's a debut novel. I thought it was such a success and so well done. It's about 3 siblings who make the really dangerous and scary journey away from Vietnam, and they seek refuge. They end up in, I think, Hong Kong in a refugee camp, and then ultimately end up in England, and it's about their life and how they try to make a home there. So yeah, I thought this book was amazing. Highly recommend it. Read it in literally one day. And then the book that I'm currently reading, I've just started, is this one. It is The Dog of the North, and I think this is a romance book, which is very unusual for me. I never tend to read romance books. I can't remember the last romance book that I've read, but I'm actually very excited to properly get into it. I only just started it last night, so I've not read too much of it. But yeah, really excited to read a romance because really out of my comfort zone actually. I think it's like a literary romance, which I think I would really enjoy. So yeah, I'm not too sure what it's about yet. I just know it's about a girl named Penny who has just gone through a divorce and is currently gone to see her grandma, who is a bit off the rails, should we say. So that's all I know so far. Really enjoying it. I'm going to try and read it this weekend, this long weekend. So I will check in with you when I'm a bit further along and let you know how I'm getting on with it. So I'm about halfway through this book now, and it has taken me so much longer than I thought it would to read this book. Originally, this was going to be like a weekend reading vlog, but it's currently Thursday and I am still only halfway through. I feel like I'm not properly in the story yet. I think it's because I've been busy this week, so I'm only reading just before bed. And I feel like when I do that, I don't give the book a chance for me to properly get into it. So I'm going to sit down tonight and I'm going to try and read a good chunk. But so far I'm not sure on it. I don't feel like super connected to the story, but again, that just could be because I've been reading it before bed, so only reading it in little snippets. But it's essentially about a woman named Penny who has gone back to Santa Barbara, where her grandparents live, after she has divorced her husband. And there's loads of different threads in this story, and I'm still, even at the halfway point, I'm still not sure what the main storyline is going to be. I'm not sure what thread they're really going to focus on. For example, she meets her grandmother's accountant, who she becomes good friends with. Also the story with her grandmother and there being a skeleton in her grandmother's garage. There's also her granddad, who she's really close with, who's got this sort of evil second wife. Also, her parents went missing years ago. So as you can tell, there's just loads of different threads and I'm just not sure where we're going to go with this. As well, it's meant to be a romance. Again, I'm just not sure who that's going to be. So it's all very loose at the minute. I guess you could say it's set in the scene, but you know, we're just over halfway through the book now. So I kind of am ready to sort of narrow in on something, get a storyline going, like get hooked on the story. I think as well, the reason I'm not hooked on a story is because I don't really know what I'm supposed to be focusing on. So yeah, I'm not sure on this book so far, but I'm going to try and read it tonight, read a good chunk tonight, and I'm hoping the second half is going to be a bit more focused, and we're really going to understand where we're supposed to be going with it and who we're focusing on, who the romance is with, because yeah, I'm really not sure on that. I feel like there's two potential options, but again, I just don't know. I will let you know what I think of the second half once I've read a bit more. So it is currently the weekend after I started reading this book. I've been reading this book for, I think, over a week now. It has taken me so long to finish, but finally this morning I have finished it. And I have to say, it is definitely not my favourite book in the long list that I have read so far. In fact, it is one of my least favourites that I have read. I just did not connect with this story at all. The relationships formed in this story, I just didn't buy. I wasn't into them. I wasn't bought into them. The story was boring. I thought more was going to happen, but nothing really happened. Going into this story, I thought it was going to be a romance, but it was far from that. I don't typically read romances, and I was really excited to finally read one, but this was just not it for me. The romance in the story I didn't buy. I was a bit confused, and then the ending ended so abruptly. There was no sort of final ending, there was no sort of conclusion, which is fine, but it just felt really abrupt, and I thought they were going to explore that romantic relationship a little bit more, but they didn't. The other relationships that the main character made in this story felt very like rushed, and the amount that she cared for this other character in the story, I was thinking, you don't even know them. I don't know, it just felt really rushed. I didn't enjoy this book really, I have to say. I would try and tell you what it was about, but I couldn't even really tell you because the story was so disjointed. There were so many elements, but then again, nothing really happened. One thing I maybe would say that I liked was the exploration of family dynamics and sort of a dysfunctional family. She comes from divorced parents, divorced grandparents. She herself is divorced. But again, I felt like that could have been explored a little bit more. I like the relationship that she had with her grandfather. That was really sweet, and the sort of obligation that she felt towards her grandmother, even though her grandmother was not a nice person. I was just expecting a lot more from this book and a lot more of a conclusion. There was a lot of like mysterious elements in this book that I thought were going to be like explored, and we were going to have these big reveals. So like, for example, her parents went missing years ago. I thought that was going to be delved into a little bit more. Her grandmother is under investigation from the police because there was bones found in her garage. I thought that was going to be explored a little bit more, and it all just felt like very surface level, all these different plots that we never really got stuck into. Like, I would rather just like one plot line that we really got to explore, but it just felt like there was too many for them to be like any satisfying conclusions to. So yeah, not my favourite book, I have to say, and hopefully the next book in the long list will be a bit better for me. But yeah, I was really excited to read a romance, and maybe that was my fault that I thought it was going to be a romance, but even beside that, there was so many elements in this book that I just didn't enjoy. So yeah, I think I'd have to give this book like a 2.5 stars for me. It says here that it was shortlisted for the Women's Prize of Fiction long list, so maybe I'm missing something, but I don't know, it just wasn't for me at all. So I'd be intrigued to read some other reviews of this book, and if you have read this book, please let me know. But I'm going to go on to Goodreads and read some reviews to see if I am missing anything, but it just wasn't for me. It didn't grip me. It felt like a slog to get through, to be honest. So yeah, on to the next one, I guess. This is book number 7 or 8 for me in the long list, so we're getting there slowly but surely. But yeah, not one of my favorites, unfortunately, but hopefully the next one will be a bit better. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one.